Thank you for joining us on Salt and Pepper Unleashed. This ain't your grandma's nursing home. Today, we're joined by two incredible leaders from our health center here at Greenwood Village South. First, we have Pam Seegers, our administrator, who's been instrumental in creating a culture of excellence and compassion that shines through in everything our team does. Her leadership has guided us through challenges and successes alike, including navigated the COVID pandemic and achieving a deficiency-free survey 4 of the last 9 years and 7 surveys. Alongside her is Alexa Ulrey, our director of nursing. Alexa is known for her clinical expertise, her calm and steady presence, and the way she inspires her nursing team to go above and beyond for our residents each and every day. Together, Pam and Alexa lead one of the top-rated health centers in the country, and today, they're here to share what makes that possible. Ladies, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we're just going to jump right into it. First and foremost, I have to say, congratulations. Here you've done it again. Another deficiency-free survey this year. A lot of our folks out there probably do not understand how incredible of an achievement this is, but it is undoubtedly an incredible one. So for our viewers, for our listeners, break down what does a deficiency-free survey really mean and why is it such a big deal?
Well, first of all, thank you. We're pretty proud of our team for sure. So the Indiana State Department of Health gives us a license to operate as a health facility for a period of 1 year. When that year is going to expire, we have to obviously renew that licensure. So they send out a team of surveyors, and usually it's 4 people, sometimes 5. They come out and they spend 7 to 10 days with us, and they look at everything from patient documentation, patient care. They look at the environment to make sure it's safe and clean. They watch food being served. They look at the kitchen to make sure it's clean. Matter of fact, that's the first thing they do is go into the kitchen. And they also watch the patient care actually being provided. They watch the nurse pass medications. There's numerous things that they look at. And at the end of their time with us, they will let us know if we've been deficient in any of those regulations that they have. And there are hundreds of them, federal and state. And what it means to us for having a deficiency-free survey is the fact that we met the requirements of all those regulations, the hundreds of regulations that there are. So we're pretty proud of our team for being able to accomplish that goal, deficiency-free.
So do they typically call you and schedule this ahead of time?
So it's an unannounced inspection. And the first thing we do is we have to put a sign on the door to notify anybody coming in the door that there's a State Department of Health survey in progress. So they will actually know, and it has a phone number listed there so that anyone that comes in to visit, any family member, any resident, any staff member can call the surveyors and set up a time to meet with them while they're there. And then they can go over any concerns they might have with surveyors, or they might want to sit down with a surveyor and tell them how great the care is at GVS. So it is unannounced. We don't know that they're coming.
And so 4 to 5 surveyors, 7 to 10 days. I can't imagine they're sending that many professionals for that long to every health center in America. I would assume a lot of that has to do with just the size and magnitude of the Greenwood Village South Health Center. Is that fair to say?
Right. I would say that because the volume of the documentation that they have to review while they're here, it does take them quite some time, because not only do they have to review that documentation, but they have to do a lot of observations. They have to take the time to go out on the floor, to visit with residents, to talk with families, to watch our staff and observe the care that they're providing. So that's why it takes such a long time for us, is just because of the volume of residents that we have and the observations they have to do while they're there.
That's and so think about the hundreds of regulations and potentially multiple hundreds of residents in that time frame. What I think is kind of crazy is there's no way they could absolutely look at every medication pass, every meal being served, every resident being taken care of. But they have the ability to do that for everyone. They have the ability to call any resident or meet with any resident or meet with any employee or pull any file. And so when you think about this, this is thousands, if not millions, of points of data that has to be on point and accurate. That over the last year or since they came in, since the last survey, they literally come in unannounced and have the ability to look under the hood, absolutely everything that's going on. And you know, I always want to clarify, it's not to say that we're perfect, because by no means do we want to, kind of portray ourselves as such, but it means that every single thing that they looked at, you were on point with every one of those data points. And I would imagine that within their visit, they're looking at thousands and thousands of data points in that 4 to 5 survey or 7 to 10 day visit. So that's just incredible to know that you're essentially so susceptible to even minor mistakes, and to walk away saying you've met all of the obligations and expectations set forth by both the federal government and the state of Indiana is pretty remarkable. Mm-hmm. So with that, we know how uncommon that is. What do you think sets you and your team apart from being able to accomplish not just such an incredible feat, but to do so consistently over a period of time?
So from the clinical standpoint, myself and the nursing leadership team, we treat every week as if the state is going to show up next week. And so there's no lull period. There's always, we're just prepared to have state walk in tomorrow. So every day is treated that we're going to follow that regulation. And so we've put into place audits for everything that's tangible that we know that they're going to be looking at. We're given information about all of the different aspects of care that they're going to be monitoring when they come in. We've set audits around those different criteria. Every single week, we complete an audit on infection control to make sure that isolation kits are in place and that they're full and active. We put audits in place for Foley catheters. Recently, they put in April a new regulation for enhanced barrier precautions. So anyone that has any kind of open area or any kind of device that enters their skin or their abdomen, whatever it may be, they have to be in isolation while we're providing care. And so we have audits in place for that. We have wound care audits in place. We have MedCart audits in place. Every week there's an audit for anything that we know they will certainly look at and have to look at to complete a survey. We're looking at those things to make sure they're accurate every week.
You know what I think is amazing is a lot of times people think that you practice for these great moments, but the reality is you play to the standards of your everyday, right? When you're on the main stage, right? So it comes down to the championship game. It's kind of like when surveyors walk in the building, but you don't play up to that moment. You play down to the kind of the standards that you've put in place. And so you're practicing every day like it's all on the line. And I think our team shows that each and every, not just when surveyors come in, but each and every day, each and every week. And we look at that and we see that through that audit process. So just remarkable. But that kind of leads us to all the moving parts, right? All these data points, all these audits. How do you keep the staff motivated and engaged? We know that this field can be extremely rewarding, but man, it can be demanding and challenging too. So how do you keep the staff engaged and motivated through all this?
From a nursing perspective, I feel like we're always brought the problem, right? There's always something's going on. How are you going to fix it? Well, when we're bringing the staff in to let them know about the new system or the new procedure that we're putting into place, I also let them know the why and their importance in it, that it's a big situation and they need to understand. If they don't understand, they think they're constantly being reprimanded for something they're doing wrong. We also tie it to the regulation and let them know, well, this is what the state and the federal government is requiring of us. Here's where we were missing the mark, and here's the new system we're going to put in place. So this is the why and how you can contribute to the greater good of getting that deficiency-free survey and making the residents feel happier or better taken care of.
You know, you hit 2 points there that I want to distinguish. I think we'd be remiss or perceived as naive if we were to sit here and have this conversation and make the assumption that every regulation from a state or federal level is meaningful when it comes down to, you know, boots on the ground and care being delivered, because sometimes it doesn't make sense. And so you said helping staff understand the why. And I think for the most part, most of the time, in significant majority of instances, it is meaningful, and helping them understand their part in the meaningful aspect of their role and understanding the why is amazing. But there are some times where you just simply have to point to it and say, this is the policy that we've been handed. We have to adhere to this. This is our responsibility, and go from there. But the fact that you're willing to have those conversations and shed that light and provide that transparency, I think makes a lot of folks say, you know what, that is kind of silly, but now I understand why we have to do it. That's fine. But for the most part, they say, I understand my role in this and how I can play into this. So I think it's great just being able to distinguish those two for staff, because it could be disheartening to not understand, why in the world am I doing this thing that doesn't make any sense to me? So again, we're talking a lot about delivering that care and kind of the direct nursing component of this. But I would imagine collaboration between and amongst departments is a tremendous component of the success that you've seen, because it's not just nursing. We've got to clean the rooms, and we've got to maintain the physical plant and the facility and all the equipment. We've got to serve food 24/7, literally, at least have it available 24/7, but serving over a large number of hours. So talk to me about the collaboration between and amongst departments.
So every morning we have a morning meeting, and we have all the departments represented in that meeting. And we talk about things that are going on with the residents, whether it just be the last 24 hours or the weekend, talk about what's going on, and all be on the same page and have a discussion about what is best for the resident, for whatever might be going on with them. And as a team, we collaborate just to make sure that everybody's on the same page, and just so that we can respond quickly to what that resident might need, and also making sure that we're all looking at every detail, making sure we're not overlooking something, because therapy may know something that's going on with the resident that might be beneficial to know for nursing. For example, if the resident is having a hard time participating in therapy, and maybe it's because there's something clinical going on, but we need to collaborate so that we all know what's going on, and we can approach things differently if we need to, just to make sure that that resident's getting the appropriate care of what they need.
Pam, you said multiple things there that really resonated. And I think the first and foremost, you said, what is best for the resident? And I think that is, I've got a follow-up question or a pretty substantial question I'm going to ask. And that really, to me, is the quintessential fundamental answer to the question that's coming up. But, you know, to think about, we have all of these departments delivering service in a lot of different ways for all these residents. We've got all these requirements, all these regulations. I would imagine it would be really easily, or it could be very easy for us to get distracted and become very task oriented. But that right there is kind of like the true north. What is best for the resident, and making sure that we're communicating. You said, you know, multiple times in multiple ways on the same page, looking at every detail. But at the end of the day, what is best for the resident? Which leads into, you know, when we look at our health center, I know that this team is wildly proud of the clinical excellence that not just we strive for, but we successfully deliver day in and day out. But in addition to that Center for Clinical Excellence, tell our viewers what we do to really create home for our residents, because a lot of times that can be easily overlooked. But what are some of the things that we do, or the approach that we take, that not just delivers excellent care, but makes this feel like home for our residents?
I think Pam kind of nailed it. We look at every aspect of the resident. We look at their preferences, whether that be food, the way they like to sleep, how they like to take their medicines. And while some of that stuff may not matter in the moment while we're discussing it, eventually it does. And so if a resident is refusing something or doesn't like something that we're doing, or it's not the way they did it at home, we try to tailor their care specifically to what that preference is to make it feel like home to them. While we know it's not the home that they grew up in or raised their family in, we try to make it as close to that as we possibly can for where they're at in their current state.
You know, I love that. It's not always just in the moment, it's down the road. And Pam, you mentioned something in the previous question, and you talked about it's about the approach. And sometimes we may not be approaching the resident the right way, but looking at each and every one of those details may help us in saying, well, maybe it's not Alexa that should have that conversation with the resident. Maybe it's Pam that should have that conversation. Or maybe it could be something as simple as, well, maybe they're not eating because this is their background and this is their story. And being able to look at all of that detailed personal information, I think truly sets that experience apart. But you know, all this is great. You know, all these achievements, the excellence that we talk about. I have a feeling none of this comes without significant challenge. So tell us, what are some of the biggest challenges and most consistent challenges that you face to meet these levels of excellence, and how do you overcome those?
So from my standpoint, two of the bigger ones are staffing. One, we have a very rigorous interview process. We have a rigorous orientation process, and that kind of sets us apart from our competitors. I mean, you can quit today at Greenwood Village South and go down the road to our competitor and get a job and start tomorrow. And we know that, but that's not how we operate. So we set ourselves apart in that aspect. People are willing to put in the work. We'll absolutely reward that all day long. Secondly, the regulation. Just in April, we had 900 pages of updates. I mean, that's me sitting down, reading it multiple times, deciding what we're doing, what we're not doing, what we need to tweak, what things we need to put in place to meet that regulation. That in itself takes so much time and effort. And it doesn't just involve just clinical. Sometimes it's social services. Sometimes it's food and beverage. We're having to collaborate to put things in place to make sure we're meeting these new regulations. And typically it's about a 4 to 5 month kind of wait period to where we get the pre-regulation, and then it's set to come out on April 31st, just like it was this year. But we were told about it in October. So while we do have ample time, that's quite a bit of time just to review 900 pages and then put systems in place. So those are two of my biggest barriers.
And so when you talk about staffing, my role in new hires, and I spend a couple hours with every new class of orientees, and I talk to them about our standards and our expectations, and I talk to them about Greenwood Village South's level of excellence and our commitment to excellence. And I share a quote that I know I'm not going to get verbatim, but it's one of my favorite quotes, and it's from Nick Saban. And being in football season, I feel like this is most appropriate, but high-performing individuals do not like mediocre people, and mediocre people do not like high-performing individuals. And it's like, we want people that are like-minded, that have high expectations of not just themselves, but the organizations in which they serve. And mediocre people don't want to be a part of that. And so sometimes those mediocre people, maybe they get through the cracks, but we find out real quick once they do. And those are the people that say, I'm going to go down the street. This is too tough. And that's okay. I think we've agreed that we're okay with that. We would much rather them figure that out early on in the process than later down the road when it really means something. And so I do think that is a challenge. But it's I think part of that challenge is we intentionally create a burden for ourselves that we are okay with because of our expectations. And then, yes, regulations, 900 pages. You may be speaking Pam's language over here, but you are not speaking my language. And so when you say ample time for 900 pages of regulations, I'm sitting here thinking, I don't care how much time you give me, that's not enough to fully digest 900 pages of some really dry verbiage and then be able to effectively implement that. So kudos to both of you for being able to take that challenge on. So Pam, Alexa mentioned staffing and the kind of the regulatory burden or expectations. Any other challenges that you would add to the mix there?
Well, I think the challenge for us is just trying to stay on top of things that are coming down the pipe, like AI, just trying to stay on top of the technology advancements, because we want to make sure our team has the best possible, equipment and technology that they can get. Just because I think it's obviously helpful. Whatever can save them some time from duplicate work, we want to make sure to have those things in place for our staff when we can. But it is a challenge because it seems like it's changing all the time. Every time we put something into place that we think is working well, then there's something else that's better. And so we're just trying to stay on top of those types of things. It's challenging.
That is, and I don't think that challenge is isolated to just the clinical component. I think it's every service delivery component here at Greenwood Village South, but it's a lot of businesses too. I was in some meetings this past week, and there was conversation about AI and creating efficiencies. And really the message was, we're not creating efficiencies to cut expense allocation. We're creating efficiencies to reallocate more appropriately and meaningfully the expense. And so basically what they're saying is, we want to make your job easier so you have more time to do more meaningful things. And I think that is our constant challenge that we keep looking at is how do we create efficiencies to where we can really lean into that person-centered care and the face-to-face interactions rather than kind of the technologically delivered components of service that I think a lot of people think of. We don't want robots serving humans. We want robots doing the regulatory, digestion and implementation, so we can actually be delivering that. So great points there. And so all of this said, here we are just south side of Indianapolis, kind of a rural-ish suburb, but sprawling and getting bigger every day of Indianapolis. But we've kind of created a name for ourselves, not just in Indiana, but nationally. And so I'm curious, how do you kind of allocate credit or show that recognition and really lift the staff up to recognize and make sure that they're aware that they're part of something so significant?
So what we did this year to celebrate our Deficiency-Free survey was, one, our staff love T-shirts, and so we got them T-shirts so they can wear them loud and proud, take them in the community, be in the grocery store with their Deficiency-Free survey so that they can show everyone that they're a part of a system that really is doing a great job. We also provided them with a big, huge party and decorated an entire room and made them feel the love that was put on by directors from the other departments. So the whole community decided to put something on for the pavilion staff specifically to celebrate that achievement.
Now, I know that this was a question, but was it just health center staff that got T-shirts, or did everybody?
The
get
whole community.
The whole
got
community got
t-shirts.
T-shirts. All right, I love that. I'm like, we can't. For whatever reason, everybody loves themselves a
They
free
love a good
T-shirt,
t-shirt.
and especially when it represents that excellence that we're talking about. People want to be a part of that excellence. So I absolutely love that. Pam, anything that you want to add to that?
Well, I think just the motivating time that we spend with staff on a one-on-one basis, because we can have one-on-one conversations with our staff and acknowledge and say thank you for everything that you do. I think that just in itself, it's very simple, but it is very motivating to them. Just having the time where you can listen to them, get their feedback, ask them for the feedback. Just that time that you spend with them, I think, is motivating too.
That, and I would say for both of you, your physical presence, being seen, being on the floor, not being too good for any job whatsoever. And I think I think that would kind of span past just clinically, but every leader of this community, that's kind of an expectation, is no task is beneath you, and everybody needs to be a part of this to really kind of set those expectations that we're here for the residents, and there should be no ego involved in any aspect of delivering whatever service may be. So we talk a lot about this success, and man, 4 deficiency-free surveys in the last 7 annual recertification surveys. And I got to put a little asterisk there to let our viewers understand that during the pandemic, there was a bit of a halt or a delay in that. But we came out of that strong. So great history leading up into the pandemic, great performance out of the pandemic. How do you build on that? What's the plan looking forward for Greenwood Village South's excellence in the care that we deliver in senior living?
So I'm not going to lower my standards. I'm going to still keep all the processes in place to ensure that we have the possibility to obtain another deficiency-free survey. Nothing's going to change. Now, what I will do is I'll find a new challenge, and I'll dig into some other area that I feel like needs improved upon, and we'll work on that to keep everybody striving for excellence across the board.
Absolutely. I think that's important. Is this isn't the peak on the mountain. Like, you don't get there, celebrate, and then relax. It's okay. Great achievement. Let's celebrate. Back to work. Back to work. And I think that is so important. Where I would imagine a lot of communities and health centers across the nation, they hit that and they're like, man, we did it. Well, you did it for the time that they were here. Did you do it the next week and the next week and the next week? And I think that's what you mentioned earlier. You treat every single week as if that's when they're coming. So great plan is simply staying the course, not letting any of the success distract us. So if you were to relay one thing to families and residents, to staff, to know about the heart behind the care that we provide here at Greenwood Village South, what would it be?
I think that the best thing to know is that we lead every day with our heart and compassion, and we make decisions that we feel are the best for the community and best for the resident. So I think that in itself is something that we should all be proud of every day. So,
well, and I know too that Pam and I don't just do this for a career. It's almost like a lifestyle. We're always available for the staff. We're always available for the residents. Whatever they need, doesn't matter the time of day, 3 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday night, doesn't matter. We're going to do what we can to meet their need at that time. And if we can't physically be there ourselves, we'll delegate someone and then follow up the next morning.
That is, you just said something remarkable that I've never heard before. I've heard a lot of people say, this isn't just a job, this is a career. You said, this isn't just a career, this is a lifestyle.
It is.
I've never heard anyone phrase it in such a way, but the way that the two of you embody that I witness firsthand, you should create a T-shirt for that one. I think that one would go off the shelves, off the hangers as well. I absolutely love that.
And I think we're always building relationships. That's what we do here at GVS. Whether it's between coworkers, it's with residents, we're always building those relationships. And I think that speaks volumes as far as our culture. And what we expect here is excellence. It's not just a goal that we achieve. It's just a constant foundation that we build off of. You know, we've maintained that excellent reputation, and we're going to keep it going.
And again, when you say that, I there's this visual that comes to mind. It's like someone with this aspirational goal of excellence looking up. And you're saying, no, that's our foundation. We build on excellence, and we go from there. And I think just that mindset, it really sets us apart. You know, something else you said, leading with our heart. One of the things, and we've talked about this in past episodes, but something that is a differentiator for Greenwood Village South and other health centers is we're a not-for-profit community. We have the luxury of being able to put money back into the community, back into the staff, back into the technology and the staff and the systems and everything else that we've talked about, whereas other health centers may not have that luxury. And so we're not burdened with these competing priorities of wanting to lead with our hearts, but having to satisfy these financial expectations of shareholders. We have the ability to lead with our hearts. And I think what we have found over the years, that when you make the right decisions for the right reasons, even if it doesn't pay off in that moment, it does. It will pay off in the long run. And we could sit here and probably talk about multiple examples of, man, that one really stunk for the financials that month. But whether it's a year or 2 or 3 down the road, you see why that was the best decision for the community for the right reasons. So I will say being able to lead with our hearts is a luxury that I am so appreciative for. All right, ladies, this has been great conversation, but we're going to end this with the signature question. And I'll let each of you decide who's going to go first. But if you could be remembered for one thing, whether it's professional, personal, whatever, just one thing in your life, what would it be and why?
Mine is that I led with integrity. I feel like whether it's a tough decision that I had to make, or if it's a quiet conversation of support or whatever it might be with a staff member, a resident family member, I've made decisions based on what I think is best. And so I think that would be what I would want to be remembered for, is that I led with integrity in everything that I did and every decision that I made. So,
Pam, I have to tell you, in the 6.5 years that we've worked together, I think there are very few singular words that I would be able to encompass in concepts that I've learned the most from you. And when it comes to integrity, I've seen you make decisions in real time that you know are going to hurt, that just, here's 2 bad options, pick one, and you're leaning into it, and you're looking at all of the information available, and you're making, like I said, the best decision for the right reasons, and you do it day in and day out, and I've learned so much from you when it comes to that. So I would say I'm going to give you an A. You're on the right track.
spot on, right?
You're on the right track.
All right.
What I want to be remembered for professionally is that when I put my mind to something, I'm going to achieve it. And not only am I going to achieve it, I'm going to tell everyone that's around me, working with me, how to do it so that they can also be successful.
With that, I'm going to add to that. You know, a lot of times people say, gatekeep or whatever it is, right? But you do. You share that information. You want everyone else succeed with you. But something I think is remarkable with you, your professional growth, development, and leadership is even before you take that on, you tell everyone around you that you're taking it on. You want that accountability. It's like, I'm going to own this before I own this. And I think that probably sharpens your approach and your determination and dedication and discipline towards achieving that. So, and I will say, I can't think of one thing off the top of my head that you have shared with Pam or with me in your tenure here that you've not just accomplished, you've exceeded even your own expectations, let alone anyone else's. So I would say you too, A+, you are on the right track. No pressure, no pressure though. That's a tall, goal, a very worthy goal, but none without challenge. So kudos to both of you for that. And again, kudos to a Deficiency-Free survey, not just this year, but kudos to just operational excellence every single day. And looking forward to seeing what you two and your teams can continue to do in the weeks, months, and years to come. So thank you both so much for coming on the show. Looking forward to having you again in the future with the next Deficiency-Free survey.
All right.
Thank
Thank you.
Challenge accepted.